I'm Ben Powers from Monroe, and this is how to change the spring and spring rod assembly in a Monroe pendulum skid tester. Spring tension may need to be adjusted at calibration. Older designs of the spring tension rod, seen here on the left, were susceptible to warping or breaking if the spring tension was adjusted without the tension rod being held in position. This is because when turning the spring adjustment screw, force was transferred to the rod itself, which over time led to fatigue of the soldered joint on the thin section of the rod. The newer design, shown here on the right, is thicker, stronger, and does not suffer from the same issues. There remain, however, a significant number of pendulum with older spring tension rods in circulation. There are 4 design iterations of the spring tension adjuster. The first generation features a knurled nut for adjustment and a thin brass face. The second generation features a 2BA screw adjustment with a slightly wider brass face. The second generation with flats features the same 2BA screw adjustment, but now has a flat surface on the brass face to aid grip. And the current design has an M5 screw adjustment with the same flats on the brass to aid adjustment. In each case, it is important to hold the exposed brass of the insert in place when making adjustment to the spring tension. You can see here adjustment of the first generation, second generation and current designs. To replace the spring and spring tension rod, you must first remove the swinging arm from the machine, remove the adapter, slider rubber and spring and washers. You can then remove the cover plate from the underside of the foot. Next, you remove the lift lever. Then unscrew the tension adjuster fully from the top of the arm. Now you need to remove the 3 screws from each side of the stop bar running across the foot. It's a good idea to mark the bar to ensure that it's replaced correctly. The slider fork can be pivoted clear to allow the loading lever and spring and tension rod to be withdrawn. At the top of the arm there is a brass insert pushed into the tube, and this can be removed with a pair of grips. This part will need to be replaced as well as the new tension rod assembly uses a 5mm screw thread. At this stage it's a good idea to check the condition of the knife edge pivot in the foot and its counterpart on the loading lever. A small amount of grease can be applied to the knife edge. It's also a good idea to check the condition of the small bearing on the end of the lever, clean and lubricate as required. The old tension rod and spring can be removed and the new tension rod and spring now fitted to the loading lever. The new design of tension rod means that the cotton sleeve on the spring is no longer necessary. The new brass insert can be fitted into the top of the tube. This split insert should be opened out a little using a large flat-bladed screwdriver so that this is a snug push fit into the tube. Remove the tension screw from the new rod assembly and feed the tension rod into the tube from inside the foot. When it touches the brass insert, you will have to rotate the rod assembly via the loading lever until you feel the lug on the rod engage with the slot in the insert. The tension screw can then be inserted and the thread engaged in the rod a few turns. You will note that the loading lever is most likely not in the correct position to align with the knife edge in the foot. Using a spanner on the flats provided on the brass insert, turn the insert until the loading lever is aligned along the foot and can be folded down onto the knife edge. Swing the slider fork down onto the loading lever and hold down whilst refitting the stop bar using the 6 screws. Press the slider fork up and down to ensure its smooth operation. The cover plate and lift lever can then be reassembled. The spring tension can now be reset using the adjuster screw. Note that when turning the adjuster screw, use a spanner on the brass insert flats to prevent it from rotating with the screw. After spring tension has been set, the adapter can be refitted and the swinging arm refitted to the machine, and foot alignment with the machine frame and release block checked and adjusted as necessary. The process is now complete.